The plane glided through the clouds, dipping low over a patchwork of wheat fields and scattered oak trees before landing in the quiet foothills of Northern California. Emma Parker stared out the window with a mix of nostalgia and nerves. The glass reflected a different version of herself. Painted lips, precisely lined eyes, and hair pulled into a chic, neat bun. She was the lead designer for one of the most influential fashion houses in New York City. But none of that mattered now. Not here. Not in Willow Creek, the small town she left at 18 without looking back. She was returning because her mother, Rose, was recovering from a serious surgery and had refused to leave her home. But also, though she barely admitted it to herself, she was here to settle old scores. With those who looked down on her. With those who whispered behind her back that a girl from the wrong side of town would never make it. And with him, with Josh. His name passed through her memory like a familiar scent. Old, persistent. Josh Martin, the pharmacist's son. The boy who gave her first kiss, her first I love you, and eventually her first heartbreak without warning. The plane taxied to a stop with a gentle jolt. Emma took a deep breath, adjusted her beige linen blazer, and stepped off into the warm August air. Willow Creek hadn't changed much. The white houses with their red roofs still lined the streets like pieces of a puzzle frozen in time. The smell of fresh bread, damp earth, and open fields. It was all as familiar as it was unsettling. She closed her eyes for a moment and let the memories come. A rusty bike, the sound of the noon church bell, and the laugh of a boy with dimples who always called her Em, as if saying it stroked her soul. 14 years had passed since she'd left Willow Creek with a worn-out suitcase and more dreams than certainty. She was 18. No money in her purse, but a crystal-clear idea. She wasn't going to be the poor girl from the trailer park, the daughter of Rose the janitor. She was going to be someone, and she was. Now, as a well-known designer in New York, with her name stitched into labels that appeared in magazines and shop windows, she was back in the very town she'd once fled. Back for her sick and stubborn mother who refused to leave her house after surgery. Back for herself, even if she didn't fully realize it yet. Same dusty streets, same whitewashed walls. But something felt different, or maybe it was just her. And then, like a wound that never fully healed, she saw him. Josh Martin, sleeves rolled up, standing on a ladder outside the local food co-op, calmly repairing a sign. The son of Mr. Thomas, the schoolteacher. The boy who used to recite poetry to her without realizing he was doing it. Something in him hadn't changed. His gaze still seemed to look through the surface and into the soul. She barely whispered his name. He turned, saw her, and the world seemed to pause for a beat. M. And just with that, the way he said it, she knew that everything she had pretended to leave behind was still alive inside her. Hi, Josh. She smiled, but it wasn't a comfortable smile. It was one that hurt. How long has it been? 14 years, she answered without blinking. He climbed down from the ladder, eyes never leaving hers. I didn't think you'd ever come back. Neither did I. You staying for good? Just for a while. Mom needs help, and she won't leave the house. Rose is tough. Like you. Emma swallowed. The conversation was gentle, but tight, like a tightrope between pride and everything unsaid. You've changed too, she said. You haven't. Is that good or bad? Depend what you want now. Then he turned and went back to what he was doing. Emma stood there for a few seconds. Everything had just started all over again. The first few days at her mother's house were a mix of routine and sudden emotion. Despite the operation, Rose moved with determined steps, dragging one leg that no longer responded quite as well, but still with the same authority. You show up dressed like you're going to some red carpet. She snapped the first day, eyeing Emma's fine leather sandals and silk blouse. The floors still get dirty here, you know. I'll change in a minute, Emma said, dropping her suitcase in the bedroom she grew up in. Oh, you look beautiful, all right, but you look like you're from another planet. Days passed slowly in Willow Creek, dragged down by the heat of August and the ever-present whisper of neighbors. Rumors traveled fast. That Emma Parker, Rose's daughter, the one who'd left somewhere to do something with dresses and fabrics, had come back. That now she was famous, even appeared on TV. That she thought she was somebody now. At the market, eyes pierced her like needles. Some full of admiration, others with thinly veiled envy. Look at that, Em. So fancy now, they whispered. But her mom still scrubbed school hallways. She pretended not to hear, but every word felt like a splinter. She remembered too well what it was like growing up with shame. How she swore one day she'd leave and prove she was more than the janitor's daughter. Emma clenched her teeth and kept walking. She had worked too hard to let words born of fear shake her pride. Only one person hadn't changed much. Lydia, her childhood best friend, now a mother of two and the town's hairdresser, welcomed her with a warm hug, no judgment, no awkward questions. Sitting together in the square, with Lydia, Emma found a kind of refuge. I missed you so much, Em. I missed you too, Lydia. Even if this place still feels as closed off as ever. And have you seen Josh yet? Yes, Emma admitted, her throat tightening. He's still the same, huh? A little more man, but same eyes. And the same way of making me forget everything, she confessed. Lydia smiled. Be careful. Sometimes what we think is healed still bleeds. Emma sighed. Josh was still a ghost she couldn't shake. She saw him around town, at the bakery, the bar, working the small vineyard he owned. Always polite, always distant. But his eyes told another story. As if he, too, was carrying a thorn he couldn't remove. One afternoon, Rose asked Emma to go with her to the town's annual summer fair. Emma hesitated, but eventually agreed. She couldn't say no to her mom's wishes, and part of her was curious to see what had changed. Or who. The town square sparkled with lights, music, and food stalls. Kids ran around, couples danced, old folks sat on benches commenting on every detail. And there he was, Josh, serving wine at the local co-op's booth. When he saw her, his shoulders tensed, but his gaze stayed steady. Wine for the city, girl? He asked as she approached. Only if it's not poisoned. Relax, I'm not that spiteful. He poured her a glass, and their fingers brushed. A quick touch, but charged with electricity. Why do you hate me so much? She blurted without thinking. Josh looked at her, serious. Hate you? I never hated you. It just hurt that you left without a goodbye. You would have asked me to stay. I couldn't. Not back then. I know. But a letter, a call, something. I was scared. Of you. Of what I felt. Of not being able to come back if I saw you again. There was a long silence. Then he looked down. I was a coward too. I didn't fight for you. And I've never forgiven myself for it. The words hung between them like strings of light. In the weeks that followed, Emma and Josh ran into each other more and more. At first by chance, then not so much. Walks through the vineyard, chats in the square, shared memories between laughter and glances. Emma started to see the town differently, not as a place that rejected her, but as the one that shaped her. She began sketching, secretly, a new collection inspired by Willow Creek, its colors, textures, its scent. And Josh, with each day, reminded her that love doesn't always break. It sometimes just pauses, waiting for the right time to return. One night, under a sky full of stars, she stood next to him. If I told you I was thinking about staying a bit longer, would you think I'm crazy? Only if you don't let me help plant the new vines. They laughed. They kissed. And for the first time in years, Emma felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. The old dirt road was still there. Emma didn't know what had led her to the clearing among the olive trees that afternoon, but her feet had taken her there almost by instinct. It had been her teenage refuge, the place where she used to hide away with fashion magazines brought from the city, where she dreamed of escaping beyond the dusty borders of Willow Creek. And it was also the place where Josh had kissed her for the first time. The breeze smelled of rosemary and dry earth. The sky was a clear, aching blue. She sat on a rock and let the silence wrap around her. Then she heard footsteps. "I knew I'd find you here," said a voice behind her. "Josh." She didn't turn around right away. She knew that if she looked at him, this place would stop belonging to memory alone. "How did you know?" "Because back then, you told me this was where you could breathe. And it still isn't easy for you in town." Emma allowed herself a small smile. "And you? Where do you breathe now?" "Here. Ever since you came back." This time, she didn't look at him. His boots were dusty, and a tiny olive branch was caught in his hair. And still, there was something about him that seemed unchanged, as if time had touched him gently. "You left so quickly, Emma. I was scared. Of me, of what you were to me." He stepped closer and sat beside her. The space between them was barely a breath. The warmth of his body was enough to make her tremble. "My dad," Josh said, gazing out toward the hills. He never understood that not all of us wanted a life of books and chalkboards. He admired you, you know. Always said you were the only student who asked real questions. Emma laughed softly, the sound laced with nostalgia. "And you're the guy who slept in the back row and passed me notes with sketches of dresses. Hey, those were good sketches. You were a terrible artist, but a great observer." Their eyes met, held. No glances darted away. Then she said, "I'm working on a new collection. Here, inspired by this. By you. By us." Josh didn't say anything for a moment. He lowered his gaze. "And after that, I don't know. Maybe there is no after. Yeah. I never stopped calling you that. Not even in my thoughts." She closed her eyes, and the wind, silent witness, rustled gently through the trees. One day, Rosie was sitting on the porch, a blanket over her legs and a steaming mug of broth in her hands. Her hair, now fully white, was braided simply, just the way she'd always worn it. "You look thoughtful, sweetheart." Emma sat beside her, hugging her knees. "Do you think it was a mistake to come back? Does it hurt to be here?" "No. What hurts is what I left behind." Rosie sipped slowly and looked at her from the corner of her eye. "I was hard on you when you left. I know that. I was just scared the world out there would hurt you. I thought I'd lose you. And now I see you found yourself. But you haven't decided if you want to stay." "I don't know, Mom. Here, everything seems clearer, simpler. But I have a life out there. A brand, commitments, fashion shows." Rosie reached out and gently took her hand. "You have the talent to be anywhere. But the heart, it only belongs in one place. Tell me, is that Josh still as charming as he used to be?" Emma looked up, surprised. "You never liked him." "I never said that. I said he was trouble. That's different." They both laughed. There was a new ease between them, a peace that hadn't existed before. And for the first time in years, Emma felt understood by her mother. Not as the woman who had worked herself ragged so her daughter could have new shoes, but as someone who had also once been young and had also once loved in silence. Josh offered to help with the production of the collection without a second thought. He didn't know fabric or cuts, but he knew the land, the colors of dusk, the feel of the wind. And that was exactly what Emma needed. They turned the old wine barn into an improvised workshop. Emma brought in a table, her portable sewing machine, and hung sketches along the stone walls. The space soon filled with the hum of shared ideas and the comfort of quiet. One afternoon, as they tested a clay-colored fabric, Josh stopped and looked at her. "Why don't you hold a show here?" "Here? In Willow Creek." "Yeah, in the vineyard. At sunset, with the mountains in the background." She studied him, surprised. "You're more romantic than I remember." "Only when I'm inspired." And just like that, the idea was born. A local show, with models from the town, wearing dresses that spoke of the land, of origins, of scars turned into beauty. It became an event that brought neighbors together, even those who'd once watched her with suspicion. The women brought tablecloths, wicker baskets, wildflowers. The children practiced walking like models. The men helped build the runway from old boards and beams. On the night of the show, the sun dipped gold over the grapes. Emma presented a collection that spoke of history, of earth, and of pride. At the end, the crowd's silence gave way to heartfelt applause. Josh stepped forward and took her hand. "You have to stay." She looked at him. "I don't know if I can leave everything, but you can start something new. Here, with me." And for the first time, Emma wasn't afraid of the future. She decided to open a small sewing studio in town, a blend of countryside and design. Clients came from neighboring areas, curious about this fashion that carried the scent of roots. Every evening, she and Josh walked to the vineyard, sharing quiet and plans. One evening, as they closed up the shop, Josh whispered in her ear, "I never imagined I'd have you again. I never even let myself dream it." Emma rested her head on his shoulder. "Then maybe it's time we start dreaming together." Josh pulled back a little, took both of her hands in his, and with a mix of tenderness and certainty, said, "Emma, I don't want to lose you again. I want to spend my life with you. Will you marry me? Start a family here, in our place?" Emma's eyes filled with tears, but her smile was wide and calm. "Yes, Josh. Yes, I will. I want to stay. With you. Here." They embraced under the last light of the day, and it felt like the whole town held its breath, as if it knew something beautiful and new had just begun. The following year, Emma and Josh were married in a simple but moving ceremony, surrounded by blooming vines. They built a bright house with a garden, a studio, and views of the vineyard. The children came, then the seasons, and with them, a life woven from roots and fulfilled dreams. He tended the land. She dressed the world. And in Willow Creek, among family, nature, and love, they were truly happy. Because sometimes coming back isn't a step backward, but a rebirth. Because true love doesn't just survive time. It embraces it, transforms it. Roots aren't chains, they're foundations. The land that once saw us born, if we look at it with new eyes, can also be the place where we bloom. Emma learned that success isn't always measured in cities or runways, but in peace, in home, in the laughter of children running through the grass. That deep love is built the way you tend a vineyard, with patience, with care, with faith in what's to come. Thank you so much for staying with me until the end of this story. I hope it moved you as much as it did me. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment and let me know which part was your favorite. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button to show your support. That really motivates me to keep creating and sharing more heartfelt, meaningful stories. At the end of the video, you'll see a suggestion for another powerful story. If you want to keep enjoying more, just click on it. Truly, thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next story.